What about protecting others, especially our own families? Someone breaks into our home, whether you're a mother or you're a father, you have instincts God gave you, protect your kids. All right, you say, Bruxy, I understand I should be willing to lay down my own life, but if someone aggresses against my family, surely you need to defend your family. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Is this not a principle that should apply to self-defense of our families, defense of our families? Well, within context, Paul's writing to Timothy about financial support. Fair, but let's see, is there a transferable principle to the violent defense of our families? Let me first of all point out the assumptions in the question. We'll run through them quickly and then we'll unpack them. Because I want you to be aware of this when you're asked. I know some of you are doing the asking, but you're also going to go and be asked by others. And look at the false assumption. These are clearly false assumptions within the question. Number one, the binary choice between violence and passivity. It assumes, do I violently protect or do I do nothing and let them all get killed? But Jesus calls us to a third and more creative way. Secondly, it assumes that the violent solution would work and the peaceful solution would fail. And that's a big assumption. And then thirdly, it assumes that saving your family's life is the most important thing to do. And I know this is hard, but I have to also question that assumption. As a follower of Christ, I at least need to raise the question. First of all, the first assumption, the binary choice between violence and passivity. Again, just like with Hitler, the questions are usually asked. So you're just going to stand there and let it happen? Or are you going to actually protect your family, meaning violence? We know that that's wrong, but the second option is fascinating. It assumes that violence will work to protect and that a peaceful yet active attempt to resolve the situation will fail. Now, we don't follow the way of peace because it works. We follow it because it's like Christ, but sometimes it works. And it's interesting that people create the construct and the rules to the situation, then force a response. And if you want to create hypothetical constructs to a situation, I'm going to join you in your creativity. First of all, what do you mean grab a gun? We're Canadians. Who's got a gun? He's got a gun. You got a, what have you got? A coffee mug. In your scenario, violence works. Does it really? But we have some American listeners. So let's say you have a gun. Or to apply, to make it fair, a cross-border discussion, let's say he's got a gun and he puts it down for a moment and you have a chance to pick it up. He's distracted. So you grab his gun. Remember, the assumption is if you grab the gun and you shoot, you protect your family. If you don't grab the gun, everybody dies. The assumption is violence works, the way of peace does not. I want to make a different assumption. How do you know that? How do you know that you don't grab the gun and go, oh, the safety's on? I don't know how to use one of these things. Boom. So apparently you know how to use the gun. Secondly, you're a great aim. Boom. Oh, you blow out the window. Now he's still running at you. And how do you know, by the way, he was telling the truth? In your perfect scenario, I want to play with that scenario for a second. We assume that he's telling the truth, that he is a faithful and honest bad guy who has let you know, I will kill you all. But of course, anyone who's using power as control will use lie in order to give you worst case scenario to keep you compliant. Maybe he was never going to actually kill anyone. Those were empty threats. But now that you grab the gun and try and kill him, you have now triggered something. He is inflamed. Now you all die. Who is to say that violence always works the way of peace does not? But may I also say, if you followed the way of peace and you did your best to intervene in a way that was nonviolent and you still died, you would die and your family would die with you all following Christ. Let's put it in perspective of Jesus. He's 20-something years old before he begins his messianic career, and a Roman soldier breaks into his home. He's the man of the house. Joseph is now dead. He's taking care of his mother Mary and his younger brothers and sisters. He's the man of the home. Roman soldier breaks in. He wants stuff. He's going to rob them. Then he just says, you know what? I hate you Jews. I hate you. I've been living years of my life here in this hellhole. I should be home with my family. I should have a better job than living here in Palestine. I hate this assignment, and I hate all of you for making me be here. And that's it. Maybe he's drunk. Maybe he's just upset. He's enraged. But he says, I'm going to kill you all. What does Jesus do in that moment? Does he size him up and say, I could take him. Stand back, Mary. I'll wait till the time is right. I'm a carpenter. I am buff. I'm ready to go. God gave me these muscles for a reason. And then, when the time is right, does he wrestle the spear out of the Roman soldier's arms and run him through? And then say, I'm the hero. Is this the way of Christ? It's a horrible thing to think that a family may die. But we dare not create the most emotionally laden scenario and then try and interpret all of Christ's teaching in a way that just grabs our heart and doesn't allow our head to do the business of sorting it through. It's like trying to figure out where you stand on the issue of abortion only by staring into the scenario of 13-year-old girls raped by her uncle, and the doctor has already said that it will be psychologically damaging if she has the child. What do you believe? Starting with that and working backwards. First, as Christians, we say, what do I believe about the unborn? What do I believe about the life that's in the womb? And if I firmly know what I believe, I will have the courage to go into emotionally laden scenarios to work it out in fidelity to my convictions, instead of starting with an emotionally laden scenario and backtracking from there. Man, when I first came to the Brethren in Christ, I was raised just war theory, so this was all new to me. And I said, okay, I've got the perfect scenario. And it was this scenario. Man has announced he's going to kill your family. He's distracted. He leaves the gun. Don't you pick up the gun. And he said, Bruxy, no. Instead, I fall on my knees and I pray. And he said, because I believe I tap into more power when I pray than when I pick up a gun. And you know, that takes a lot of faith. But maybe that's the issue. Do we really believe that there is a bigger world than the world around us right now? And that life is more than preserving this flesh and blood? Do we really believe it? I was talking to Ron Sider just this week, had an opportunity, and he said, you know, Bruxy, none of this makes any sense unless we believe in the kingdom of Christ, unless we believe in heaven, unless we believe that life is more than this. If this is all there is to life, then the peace teaching of Jesus is a lie. But if life is bigger than this, if we have faith to believe there is more, then it all fits together. Dying is no longer the worst thing that can happen to us. Not following Christ is the worst thing that can happen to us.